Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? Azario here, and welcome to the final video we'll be doing for the Grand Chase Grand Tour playlist here on YouTube. Before I get started, just want to tell you how this video is going to go. Again, forgive the background noise. It's just, the nephew's baby, my cousin's baby. I don't know why I said nephew, but yeah. But I'm going to tell you how this video is going to go. First and foremost, there were some dungeons that I couldn't finish because there's certain tickets that you need to play them, and with this being the last day before they before they shut down all the servers, there's no way for me to obtain those tickets to play those dungeons. But before I leave, let me just show you what the dungeons were. So I'm pretty sure there's dungeon runs of these all over YouTube, so you'll be able to check them out. There was Moonlight Village, Angry Boss, Talon's Revenge, and King Slime Land. So be sure to look those up, as well as the Hero Dungeon. Uh, Burkos Lair and Tower of Disappearance. So you guys will be able to look those up on YouTube at your convenience, and I'm pretty sure somebody did a dungeon run of them and recorded it. But again, I needed tickets for the event dungeons, and I couldn't get the tickets anymore because I don't know how to get them. And plus, it's only one day away before they close down the servers, like I mentioned before, so there's no way for me to get them at this point. So in this video, what I'm going to be doing is just giving my final thoughts on the game, how long it's come since 2008 when the North America servers first opened up, and just talk about my experiences during the earlier days, because I know a lot of people that's been playing it since the early days when things changed in this game significantly, and it was a lot of fun times during those times. I also want to speak on some of the unanswered questions some of the questions that we're never going to get an answer to, involving some of these characters as well. So, as well as, to my knowledge, some of the background of most of the characters, if not all of them. So, first off, I just want to say, man, this, like who would have thought that a game like this would have ended up, being shut down due to the fact that they couldn't keep the servers open, due to the fact that it's been a decline in new users. Nobody knew what's coming to the game, and nobody was really spending any money, so they couldn't make a profit off of it anymore. Plus, they were in, I don't know, like I think they said they had like a deficit at one point, so they couldn't keep the game going, and they even sold the game back and forth to multiple companies to try to keep the game going for as long as they did. And I remember they, at first, Gamer Rage, which I think is now is called I believe it's called Level Up Games, but at the time they were calling it Gamer Rage. They ended up selling the game back to KOG, which is the original developer for Grand Chase, and they ended up giving it back to them, and they were able to keep the game going for at least another year. I mean, they tried to put it on Steam and do like Steam packages where you can unlock a certain amount of characters early on, and people just weren't buying into it, and eventually it just got too much for them, and they have to close it down. It was a lot of things happening that were probably still in development that we're never going to see due to this. So it's unfortunate, man. I mean, when I first started playing this game, they just had Patch Ronin into the game update at that time. I think it was, I think I started playing in 2000 what? I think it was 2008, either 2008 or 2009. But around that time, Ronin just became available, and before that, it was just Alesis, Liray, and Arme that they had available. So that was all the characters that they had available. And Ronan was like the first male character that they put in the game. So he was like my main character. Uh, even to this day, he's still like my highest level character that I have. And you know, I've been playing it ever since. I mean, I remember playing player versus player, uh, and just having fun. I think my record on player versus player, well, you see it right there, free PvP. Because I never did PvP rank. I don't even know what that is. Like I never participated in that. It was only one player versus player mode, to my knowledge. So this is like something new to me. Even as the game is closing tomorrow, like this is new to me. I never knew that they had a ranking system, but in PvP, you know, I had over 4,000 wins and 975 losses, and my victory percentage was 80%. So I was doing pretty good with the character. And that is my baby cousin. You know, his grandma got him, so he's in good hands. Um, but yeah, man, like when they first started uploading more characters into the game, the backstories on some of these characters are pretty good. First off, I want to talk about Lass, because Lass was a character that it was a monster on this game called Kazeyaze, and before they updated the game with like the full Kazeyaze monster model, it was just Lass that you had fought, like Lass, but he had like an evil look to him. And I think I have a picture of him somewhere on here, but I'm gonna get to later on in this video. And you guys are gonna get to see what he looked. Well, actually, he didn't look like the way that they have him looking like now, but you know, he was evil at first when they first introduced him. And then all of a sudden, the Kazuyaze had that spell that got broken after Grand Chase had defeated him, and he became a member of like Grand Chase, and he had like twin daggers, and it was like he was pretty quick, and he became like a fan favorite quick. After him, Ryan was up, updated into the game, or he was uploaded into the game, and he had like different forms he could take. Like he had the form of like a Nephilim, a wolf, at first. Then it was like a Nephilim, and then he had like another form of, I can't remember the name of the character. Let me see. Um, can't remember the name of the character. Transformation. Like he transformed into a third person. Yeah, there we go, right there. Magnus Dan. And again, to my knowledge, there wasn't anything that. Why did they take the cordy off of him? I have no clue, but that's weird. I don't know what happened with that. Anyway, wow, they fucked him over. But I fixed it. It was actually this item called like the blacksmith's helm, and what it did was that it allowed you to wear armor like 10 levels higher than what your character was. So this armor is like level 70, but because of the blacksmith helm, this character is level 60, but because of the blacksmith helm, I can wear like level 70 armor. So that's what that is. But yeah, like Magnus Dan was his third transformation, and you know he quickly became a favorite. The thing that I think people really didn't like about Ryan at first, and I think it was like the same thing when they started updating the game with like different classes and different jobs and things like that for the characters and different fighting styles. Ryan's first class kind of reminded people of Elisa's third class, where she had like a giant sword. Because Ryan, his first job was like a giant axe, but he couldn't run. Like he wasn't as agile Elise's third job was. So people were kind of like put off by that, and eventually they gave him a skill in a skill tree where he can run, but he was only able to run for like a certain amount of time. I think it was like what 10 seconds, 5 or 10 seconds that they gave him to where he could actually run in that mode in his first class. So that kind of overcame anything that you know. It was like a temporary solution to like a problem. So once his second job got released, people were more using that a lot more than they were his first job because it was more agile and it was interesting because he had a move that some of the other bosses in the game had, which was like this. I don't know what it was. It was like a spirit shield kind of move, and it was a monster on Battle for Messiah in that dungeon, and he had the move at first, and then there was another character that had the move. I think it was Vanessa in the Temple of Kuatal. I think that was the dungeon on Xenia. I think that character had it, and I think people remember that more than they did the character that boss from Battle for Messiah. So it was crazy that they gave him that, and people were just flocking to him for that reason. Then we get to Amy. Now Amy was a unique character from the jump because she actually used like musical instruments as weapons, and that's kind of ridiculous. And I think her third job was like a what? No, I think it was like her fourth job was like a purse or something like that turned into a lightsaber. And at this point, people were already thinking, okay, they're just pulling ideas out their ass at this point, because how in the hell do you make a purse into a weapon? And that was kind of the case with one of the jobs that Arme had. She had like a pot or something like that. Well, she was like a wizard or something, but they literally gave her a purse. They gave her a mic, a violin that turned into like a sword, saber type of fighting style. Like, yeah, like it was almost like a fencer type of fighting style. And they gave her a microphone that you see she has right now, which she could break and turn into pretty much use like a sword, I guess you could say. And then her fourth job is like a person. I don't know what they were thinking. So it was crazy. Then the game gets serious when Jin comes into the game. Like, he was last in the storyline. He was like the last of this group called the Silver Knights, and when he first got into the game, he was like a hand-to-hand combat. He was very close range, and he was very quick, and people flocked to him really fast, and he was pretty good. Jin, like, if you knew how to use him, you could be very, very annoying, but very, 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 very hard to beat. So Jin was good too, especially when they gave him his different classes. He had the Tonfa, which was kind of like a wild skill, and the reason why I say wild because it was kind of hard to control at times. Or at least for me it was. So next up we have Seghart. Now Seghart is an immortal. Actually, he was a part of this group called the Highlanders, and they were like a group of immortal beings. Like Seghart, he became one. I don't know what happened or I can't remember like the full background of it, but I think that's something I'm gonna touch on later because it's actually a website where they explain like the backstory of like a lot of the characters, so we can get to that in a minute. And he actually had some pretty good weapons. He had like a gladius, which is like an upside down like dagger fighting style that he had, and then he had like a spear and a dagger, and then he gave him like a twin sword fighting style, and then he had like this big sword, which is kind of like if anything, if you guys remember like Final Fantasy, his like one of his skills was actually like one of his special moves was actually that of like Cloud Strife. If you remember Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, that animated movie, like he has that move in here. So it was cool that they gave him something like that, especially from a lot of people that may be playing Grand Chase that were fans of Final Fantasy. That was something interesting. And this is actually Ellis's, or excuse me, Elisa's great great grandfather or something like that. But since he's immortal, he lived all this time, and you know, so that's something interesting right there. And next up we have Dio, who was a demon that came from like a dimensional rift. And I don't really know too much about Dio, other than I think he was like the ruler of that dimension, or like a prince or something. And he was just fun to use. Now he didn't have any weapon changes with his job changes. He just got like more skills. So he was like the first unique skill tree that the game had, and that's when they introduced this this meter called the AP meter, where instead of where before you had to hold down the attack button, which was Z on the keyboard, and charge up to a certain point and then release it in order to do like a certain special skill. With the AP meter, it just build up by itself, instead of when you hit a monster or something like that, it charged from you doing combat. This one was an automatic charge. The AP meter was an automatic charge, and the way you do a skill is that there was hotkeys that you can press. You assign the skills to a certain um, key, and then you push that key when you had enough AP, and you're able to do the skill. Now, some of the skills weren't actually like special moves; they were like normal attacks. They're pretty much like the best way for me to explain them were like extra normal attacks. But then you had the special skills, of course, and the stronger the skills were, the more AP they caused. So they introduced something new with him, and it was the same thing with Zero, which is a guy that had like two different fighting modes. It was like, well, actually, he had three. He had like his regular mode that you're seeing he, he's standing in now, but then he's able to get that big sword off his back and actually use it. And he had like super armor while he had like the sword out, like he didn't flinch. And but I'm not sure if they like, I can't remember what order they released the characters in, because I think Ren came before Zero did, even though in the storyline chronologically Zero appeared before Ren, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But I think they updated, uh, but I think they patched in Ren after they did Zero, or was it vice versa? I don't remember. But yeah, Ren, she was another character. She didn't have any, just like Dio, Zero, and Ren, as well as several of the other characters. They didn't have any weapon changes. They just had skill changes with their jobs. They got skill upgrades. And Ren was like, she was fun to use. And then they gave her a different fighting style, which was more of like a close range than what her default was. Her default was more like she would wave her fan and send like these small hurricanes, like these small twisters, these small gusts of wind. And pretty much she was like a distance fighter. She was like fighting from a distance. And she had another fighting style that they gave her where, because she had like a light and a dark side to her. Her dark side was more of like a close range fighting style, which is what I picked. So, because I was more familiar, I like that more. And then she had like these glyphs, which was like something that she could use to throw like shots, like little wind shots and things like that. And it gave her extra attacks. So she was fun to use. Now Asin, he's a character just like Jin. He's one of the Silver Knights, and apparently, from what I read, this guy was Jin's mentor. But Asin's master used to always talk about how he looked up to Jin though, and I don't know, something's weird. I don't know if they typed that up wrong or I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Because Asin's master was praised Jin oftentimes when he was training Asin, and I don't know, like they messed something up there, I think. But the storyline behind Asin is that when he joined Grand Chase, he actually contemplating, well, based on what I read, like he actually contemplated killing Jin, so that because he wanted to be like the last of the Silver Knights. So it's kind of like something there that probably like a piece of like a storyline arc that would never get answered or like we'll never see play through because the game is ending. Um, we have Lime. The best way for me to describe Lime is she's like they didn't do anything with this character like at all. Like they really didn't. Like Lime was just like something extra that they threw in there, and they didn't really think. She played more like support and defensively than anything because she didn't move fast at all, and her skill set was very tanky. Well, I wouldn't say tanky. That's the wrong word. Like her movement was very tanky. Like she couldn't run. She was another one of those. Like she could dash, but she couldn't run. So again, just like Ryan's first class, she didn't have any job changes either. But all she had was that big hammer that she would lunge around. So I don't know. She was, for the ones that got familiar with her, I guess they got good with her. But I never bothered with her after that. She was just like ridiculous. Next up, we have Adele, who was the first character that between Vegas and Adele. I think this is when they started to introduce character dungeons, and the character dungeons was something where you had to beat that character dungeon before you were actually able to use them in the main game, which I think was kind of stupid. But I guess they wanted you to play through their storyline and get their backstory. And she was a part of this she was part of this family called the House Frost, which I think was like a royal family or something. And I think she was looking for somebody that, like her brother or something, if I'm not mistaken. And again, another question that we're never going to see answered. Like, who was her brother? Was she already a part of Grand Chase? Or maybe it was long lost. I don't know. Like with like Asa and her brother, because they kind of look similar. Even though I don't think that they have any relation. I don't know. And just something I threw out there. Next up, we have Uno, which is going to bring me up to the next unanswered question that I feel like we're never going to get the answer to. He's actually unique though, because they made this character. They modeled the character after the like the characters on Bleach. Like, if I'm not mistaken, this is the last character that they put on this game, and they modeled him after the characters on Bleach, and he had moves that resemble that. But his background is he was actually born from the blood of the Highlanders after they got slain by the main villain of the entire Grand Chase storyline, Astaroth. Seghart, he got injured and he went back to the Highlander hideout or their headquarters or whatever, and Astaroth had followed him and he slaughtered all of the Highlanders except Seghart. Like Seghart, he got away, and from all that slaughtering, like their blood came together and it formed into Uno. Now Uno, he has like an undeniable thirst for blood, you know, and he just can't satisfy that craving. So, from what they are saying, it seems like he's a good guy at heart, but because he has like this, pretty much he's a Highlander, but his power isn't all the way developed, and he has to use his own blood. Like his skills uses blood, so he has to use his own blood. So he has to, kill people to get more blood to use his skills again. So he has like a dark background, just weird, man. So, and the thing was, the Highlander hideout had like a barrier on it that he that when Uno was created, like he couldn't escape that hideout, and it was placed on there by Astaroth, if I'm not mistaken. And when Astaroth had got defeated and the barrier had got lifted, he escaped, and that's how he came to be. They're playing like loud music next door, so forgive me if you can hear that. But yeah, he has a background story that just doesn't make any sense because he came again after Grand Chase defeated Astaroth. That's when he showed up. So I don't know what storyline they were planning on continuing with Uno. Like I don't know if he was just gonna go crazy during and become a boss at one dungeon, or if he finally was gonna get like a job where he controlled his powers fully and he didn't need to use blood or anything like that. Um, I don't know. It was just ridiculous. The background story just, I don't know. It was something that I would have liked to see him play out, but you know, the game's ending, so it's not gonna happen. Now next up is Vegas. Now this is when you really knew that they were pulling every idea out their ass to control, to give like ideas for weapons, because they were running out of ideas by the time they got to Amy, in my opinion. Like they literally ran out of ideas, which is why I think several of the characters after Amy, with the exception of Jen and Seghard, because I think Amy was first. Uh, Between Jen, Seghard, and Amy, I think Amy came first. She was first, and with the weapons that they were giving her, I mean, I just figured they were running out of ideas, so that's the reason why they started doing like single weapon job changes between Dio, Zero, Ren, and Asin, and Lime. It was like they didn't do anything else, and I think Adele had a different job change as well that they never did anything with or couldn't. No, they did something with it. Let me take that back. They did do something with it, but just like the other characters after Dio and after him, the job changes didn't involve a weapon change as much as it involved like an upgrade in skills, stronger skills and different stances and things like that. So Vegas, he's like, I don't know if he was like an up and comer or if he was like the Dark Prince in the realm that Dio and Lei was from, because he came from that realm. But this cube, it held some type of being inside it, and he was using that cube as like a guide to get him through his character dungeon, which led him to, the world of Grand Chase. And I don't know. The unanswered question I have was, what was that being inside that cube that was guiding him, and would that being ever got like set free during like a different job class? Like I don't know. I think I would have liked to have seen that unfold. Next up, there's Mari. Now Mari, that's not her real name. I forgot her real name. If you go to the final dungeon, well, like the final, regular dungeon, um, in Arch Media, I believe that's the name of that continent. They gave the backstory on who Mari actually was and the importance that she had. in the storyline, and she didn't. Uh, like she actually was like a key to the power that Astaroth was trying to use. So she was, I don't know, they gave her like a good background story. And I would at around this time when Mari had first got patched into the game, I stopped playing Grand Chase, and it wasn't until I came back that she was on there. And I don't really know too much about this character, so I don't know. Maybe somebody else knows about her background. Um, and next up we have Lay, which is like, I don't know if that's Dio's sister or if that's like his wife to be or something like that. I don't know if they have any type of relation, but I think they're part of like two different royal families in like the demon world or something. And she followed him. If I remember correctly, she followed him out into where he went to with Grand Chase. So he came. She she was following him around, and her fighting style was that she summoned, like pretty much like she shot a lot of magic. That was her fighting style. And that glove, that's her weapon. And she was like summon like beasts and monsters and things like that. So she was like difficult to use, but she was fun to use. Never really played with her that much, but she had an interesting fighting style. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Rufus. Now, Rufus is a character that I'm completely oblivious to. I don't know anything about his background. I don't even think he had a background story. It was like they just put him on there and voila, you have a different character with twin guns. And he had mode changes again. He got different weapons, but the weapon changes only happened during certain skills. He didn't really have like, different weapons that you could equip. So it was so his weapon didn't change, and he played actually kind of sucky. Like his fighting style was, again, just like with Lime and a few other characters, he wasn't difficult to use. It was just that he was just boring to me. He was very boring, and he wasn't interesting to use at all. So I don't really know too much about it. You know, Looking back at the game when it first got started, I mean, I remember when you didn't even have any experience point missions that you could get, and I think like the highest level armor that they had was like the Pegasus armor, and it was like level 35. And if you had that armor at that time, like you was the man. You was the man in this game because it was so hard trying to grind and get those experience points to level up to level 35, which was like the final level that you had at that time. Like as of right now, they raised the level cap to 85, but it was, man, that was like a difficult time to play Grand Chase because they didn't have any missions for you after a certain point. I think the only continent that they had on here, or the only dungeons that they had, was that they filled out Certain, the entire Certain, like this GP shop wasn't here. You had to get to the GP shop up at the top tab. But Certain was filled out, and then you have Elia. And I think when I first got started, I think they just added Hell Bridge. No, I think they had just added Kazuya's castle. Was it Kazuya? No. Um, when I first got started, I think they just put Kamiki's castle on there, and then they added Temple of Fire and Hell Bridge and Kazuya's castle like a little after. Because they were trying to catch up to what the Korean servers were doing. So, yeah, that's pretty much all they had. But I think as far as like the missions to get experience points, they stopped here. No, they stopped at yeah, they stopped right here at part to say C. I think the item you could have got was like a goggle, like some type of goggles or something that could help you breathe underwater. Because as you are fighting underwater, um, which you know, which that dungeon had like a lot of, you were underwater most of the time, and they would use areas where you could, like, you had like an oxygen level on the side, and if that oxygen level had went down to, or like when it emptied, you would start to lose health rapidly. But then they had items like the, let me see if I can find one. 'Cause I think I still had mine. I don't think I ever used it. Uh, right here. This is oxygen mask, and this was from season 3. It was like you were able to wear this without having to worry about your oxygen levels depleting. So it was one of those things right there, and it wasn't worth putting on, so I never used it. I still got all my uses of it, even to right now. So, um, but yeah, like it was very, very difficult trying to gain experience points back then, and I know a lot of people remember that. It was just, I think more people gained experience from playing the player versus player matches, and it was kind of crazy back then because people used to do like aerial grabs, and they changed up some of the moves too. I remember Ronin's third skill. One of his skills were, I think it was like a second skill attack where he would like bash his sword on the ground, knock up the target, and then like slash 2 times into the air. And now they changed it because they had a revamp, and they changed his moves to where he just slashes 2 times in the air. I don't know why they changed that. That was like a very, very helpful move. But they never like, we're never gonna see Zero without his mask, because eventually I think they were gonna do that. Because let me go to this website. Let me show you this. That they did a Grand Chase tribute blog, which is at grandchase.lsword.com, 2015/04/Grand Chase dash tribute dash blog. Well, you guys see the website right there. I guess I'll put it in the description so you guys will be able to follow it easier. But they did that, and they put up the storyboard and like the pictures of some of the characters, well, of all the characters in the game. And let me go to the character profiles so that you guys can see. You can check out the world history too. Um, close this out. Alright, so let me go to Zero right here. Check out his backstory, and this is what he looked like at first, and going all the way down right here. You see, this is what he looked like without his mask on. Now I don't know if, I can't tell if this is like him, just with him without his mask, or if this is like Grandark just taking over his conscious or something. I don't know, but it's a shame we're not going to be able to find out, because I think that would have been like cool to play as him when he was like that. So it's kind of like a shame that they didn't it's kind of a shame that we didn't get to see that. And I don't know what this is. I don't know if he has like a history with the demons like Dio and Lei and Vegas. I don't know if he has a history with them, because this character was in a lot of the storyboards with Dio and etc. So I don't know why they have him in like a picture with them. I don't know what his background is with them or with that character. So that would have been interesting to see. And also, let me go back to characters, because I did mention that I wanted to show who was it? Was it Uno? No, it was Adele. Because I wanted to see if they put the put it in there that she was looking for her brother or somebody. They say Adele is a swordsman from the Frost family in Certain Kingdom. The Frost family was one of the most families was one of the few families of the swordmen in the magical kingdom of Certain. However, they had lost their power and prestige as the magic factions of the kingdom grew stronger. Adele and Adele were twins who were born into the weakened Frost family. Adele, as the older brother, was very intelligent and filled with wisdom. Many of the family members, many in the family placed their expectations on him to restore the family name. However, Adele had an incurable disease which led to the younger sister Adele to become a soldier of Certain in his stead. In his stead, Adele, who had distinguished herself in battle against monsters that had invaded Messiah, felt a pain in her right eye. Filled with unease, she quickly returned to her family, only to find out that they were put under a curse. To lift the curse that had been placed on her family, she left on a journey to find a sinister red light that had appeared on that fateful day. Swordsman of Frost family in Certain Kingdom. Frost family is one of the. Oh, never mind. They just uh, posted it twice. Seemed like so. Okay, so her brother had an incurable disease. I thought she went on a journey to look for him, but she went on a journey to look for that curse. What was Rufus' backstory? We gotta check this because I don't know anything about him. Let's see. He's unknown. The origin of underworld. Okay, he's a mercenary. Rufus is a bounty hunter and descendant of the underworld race, Haros. Like the physical world that the members of the Grand Chase live in, there exists an underworld in which dead souls reside. Here, the evil souls, they put souls, are locked, typo, are locked in prison to live their lives, regretting their mistakes, while the kind souls prepared for their turn at reincarnation. Rufus' father was a famous and competent bounty hunter. However, due to a certain incident, he left the underworld to live in the physical world and never returned. After being abandoned and driven by his resentment towards his estranged father, Rufus Wilde set out to surpass his father's abilities and become one of the world's greatest bounty hunters. Toward the end of his lengthy pursuit of his missing father, Ernest, Rufus suddenly felt an energy of blue flame once used by his father. The flames that followed him into Nightmare Circus, where he met Ringmaster and Lass. So he has a history with Lass and Ringmaster uh, for, from that event dungeon. So that's crazy. So they do have a background. I seen him in this picture, and it was like, I didn't know what history they had. And it turns out they both met Nightmare Circus. So that's again like another storyline that I would really like to have seen played out. They could have made Nightmare Circus into like an actual storyline arc, for Rufus and Lass. That would have actually been interesting. So Arnius, uh, Ernest, I think that I don't know. I think they mentioned that name in regards to like a hammer or something, didn't they? Oh no, the Arnis hammer. I don't know. Like I can't remember it, but I think they did. So that was something interesting. Mari. Let me see if they mention her real name in this. Mari is the last remaining survivor of the destroyed ancient kingdom of Archmedia, known as Konet. She does not have memories of her past. She was the daughter of a king of Konet, Hadunak Miu Orient. As a child, Mari. Well, no, they didn't mention her real name. But they did mention it in the dungeon. So, like I said, you guys can watch the last dungeon in Arch Media, that dungeon run, in a playlist, you'll be able to find that out who she was. Um, who else I had mentioned? Oh, Asen. That was like the last character I wanted to talk about because he had a history with Jin, and I couldn't remember if he was supposed to take out Jin or not supposed to, if he planned on taking out Jin or what. Is that Asen Taran was the second in command of the Silver Knights of the Silverland and Jin's mentor. At that time, Silverland became separated due to the Ascendant God's rage. Asen Taran's fight against the monsters had left him seriously injured. At death's door, Asen Taran was saved by a child. Accepting that he was the only one of his friends to survive, he accepted the young boys as his disciple to continue the Silver Knights. After teaching the child everything he knew about martial arts, he gave the child the name Asen and soon passed away. The boy who was reborn as Asen left his master's tomb in search of an existence that would make him stronger. During his travels, he ran into Grand Chase and met Jin, the one that his master had often praised during their training. With complicated thoughts of having Jin disappear in order to be the last of the Silver Knights and need to be recognized by the already deceased Asen Taran, he joined Grand Chase in their journey. So he did have, it seemed like he had like a plan to get rid of Jin, to be the last of the Silver Knights. On top of that, they said that oh, okay, never mind. Okay, so I got the names confused. His Asen, well, this Asen, um, he took the name of his master, and even though his name is Asen Taran, his master's name was Asen Taran as well, and his master, Jin was his master's mentor. So that's why I got it confused. But yeah, I would have liked to seen that storyline play out, to see what would have happened. I don't know if they would like made up, or if they would have had like a fight or something like that. And was they going to find out his real name? Because he got renamed Asen, but they never revealed what his real name was. So that would have been something interesting to find out. But unfortunately, we won't be able to get that. So that's pretty much it, man, for the Grand Chase Grand Tour. Again, it's sad that the servers are shutting down. I mean, you would have never guessed that a game like Grand Chase would be having this issue, but you know, uh, it happens, man. It happens to the best of the game. So, final thoughts on the game is that you know, even though Grand Chase is ending, they're actually moving the characters, or at least from what they all have already done. It seems like they're trying to move the characters, or move somewhat, or trying to merge the storyline of Grand Chase in this new game called El Sword, which is KOG's like latest uh, game, and it kind of ties into Grand Chase a little bit. And Alesis has actually got moved to that game. Let me see if I can find. Let's see if I can find that for you guys. See if I can find that character for you. You see right here, they're welcoming all the people from Grand Chase. And you see right here, that's Elysis right there. They moved her from Grand Chase into the El Sword, where she has like a little brother named El Sword. So there's some background for you. Let me see. Getting started. I'm trying to find where she is so I can give you a look at her. Because they gave her a new look too, right here. Elysis, Irina, and Asha. Those are supposed to be like Arme and like Lorraine, respectively. You see, she has a new look to her right there. She they changed her up a bit. She has some cool new job changes as well. Grandmaster, Dark Knight, Crimson Avenger. Like different characters have like different paths they can take. Like the characters have like different paths they can take, and that's going to lead to like a final job skill, job change. I mean, and so it's an interesting game. It plays a bit differently than Grand Chase, but you know, it seems like they're trying to move the world of Grand Chase into Elsword and trying to develop like a new storyline there. I don't know if they're gonna move any of the other characters from Grand Chase into um, Elsword because, like I mentioned before, like uh, a couple of the characters are already like some of the characters in Grand Chase, like Aisha or Aisha. She's like RNA. She's like her. She's like the magician, and then you have Rena, which is like Lorray. So that's the best way for me to describe those characters. And I don't know, they got a crazy ad. They got Aura, which is like a fox. They got Chung and Eve and Raven. You know, they got some interesting characters in here. So I guess the Grand Chase will continue in Elsword. So hopefully they do something with this. I don't know if maybe one day they're gonna finally get that deficit cleared, and maybe Grand Chase will be back. I highly doubt it. If it does, it's gonna be like some years before that happens. But you know, it is what it is, though, man. So that's it as far as the Grand Chase Grand Tour. Hope you guys enjoyed the playlist. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a bit long, but it's only right to give the game a final send-off since it's going to be ending tomorrow officially. And yeah, man. So as they say in Grand Chase, long live the chase. Until next time, peace.